The Veiled Harvester, Whispers of the Drought. The Veiled Harvester. The Great Basin stretches out like a scar across the earth, a vast, lonely expanse of sagebrush and dust where the wind howls like something alive. Out there in the shadow of crumbling foothills, the farmers of Dry Hollow clung to lives as brittle as the soil they tilled. By the summer of 2011, the drought had turned their fields to ash, and the livestock were dropping one by one. That's when the stories started, whispers about the thing they called the Veiled Harvester. It showed up on the edges of town, where the farmland bled into the wild. A silhouette against the horizon, tall and thin, draped in tattered burlap that fluttered in the wind like a shroud. No one could say when they first saw it. Just that one day it was there, standing motionless in the distance, its head bowed as if in prayer. Up close, folks said its hands were wrong, long and skeletal, ending in rusted shears that glinted dully in the sun. It didn't move, didn't speak, but the air around it felt heavy, like the weight of a storm that never breaks. The first sign was the crops. Old Man Grayson found his wheat untouched one morning, swaying in the breeze like nothing was wrong. But his goats, 6 of them, were sprawled across the barn floor, their hides sunken and dry, bloodless as husks. From their carcasses sprouted strange, thorn-like growths, black and twisted, curling toward the ceiling like they were reaching for something. He swore he'd seen the figure the night before, just beyond the fence line, its shears snipping at the air. Like it was pruning, he'd said, his voice trembling. Pruning what? I don't know. After that, it got worse. The Baxter twins, barely 10, went missing chasing a stray calf into the scrubland. Search parties combed the hills for days, but all they found was the calf, or what was left of it. Its body was drained, collapsed in on itself, those same thorns jutting from its ribs like a crown. Nearby, etched into a flat stone, was a single handprint, smeared in something dark and oily. The twins were never seen again, but their mother swore she heard their voices on the wind some nights, faint and pleading. Dry Hollow started to unravel. Folks locked their doors, kept their stock inside, prayed the thing would move on. But it didn't. It lingered, always at the edges, by the irrigation ditch, atop the low rise overlooking the church, once even in the shadow of the grain silo. It never came closer, never crossed into town, but you could feel it watching. And then there were the dreams. Anyone who'd seen it, even from a distance, started waking up gasping, clawing at their throats. They talked about a figure looming over them, its shears clicking, cutting something they couldn't see. It's taking pieces, Widow Tate whispered once, her eyes sunken. Pieces of us. By fall, the town was desperate. The livestock kept dying. Cows, sheep, even the stray dogs, all found bloodless, thorn-ridden, no matter how well they were guarded. The pastor tried a blessing, sprinkling holy water along the town's borders, but the next morning his horse was gone, and the thorns grew right through the chapel floorboards. That's when Cal Wheeler decided to face it. He was a big man, grizzled from years of breaking the land, and he wasn't about to let some burlap ghost ruin what little he had left. Armed with a shotgun and a flashlight, he marched out to where it last been seen, a barren patch near the old windmill. He didn't come back whole. They found him at dawn, slumped against the windmill's base, alive but changed. His left hand was gone, severed clean at the wrist, the stump sealed with a crust of black thorns. He wouldn't talk about it, just stared ahead, muttering about a deal. His farm thrived after that. The crops grew tall, the cattle fattened up, while everyone else's withered. People stopped looking him in the eye, but they noticed the burlap scraps tied to his fence posts, flapping like flags. I got out of Dry Hollow that winter. Couldn't stand the silence, the way every gust of wind sounded like those shears snapping shut. I'd seen it once myself, driving home late from a supply run. It was standing in the middle of the road, tall and still, the burlap rippling around it like it was underwater. I hit the brakes, heart pounding, and for a second I thought I saw something beneath the veil. Not a face, but a hollow, a void where something should have been. Then it was gone, and I floored it all the way home. That night I dreamed of scissors cutting threads I couldn't see, and when I woke, there was a thorn stuck in my pillow, sharp and cold. Dry Hollow's still out there, shrinking year by year, a ghost town waiting to die. The veiled harvester hasn't left. Folks passing through say they see it sometimes, motionless on the horizon, shears in hand. They don't stop to look closer. If you're ever out that way, keep your windows up and your eyes forward. Don't listen to the wind, no matter what it says. Because the harvester's still pruning, still taking its pieces, and it's got plenty of room left beneath that veil.